that amongst the presidential candidates that are there, on a bigger scale, there are 4 people, of course. But the question that is coming up is that there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says that ma aflaha qawmun ammaru alayhim imra'atan, that no nation can prosper when a woman is its leader. Okay, and this is an authentic hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But as you have a particular area within our deen, if there's any particular area regarding our deen that which is clearly mentioned that there is no woman that can lead that position, then we're not going to discuss that. For example, when you come to salat, there is no woman who can lead the salat of jama'ah when there are men and women. Okay? When there are men and women, a woman cannot serve as the imam. Ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullahi alayhi, he further goes on to mention that if there is ever a situation where there's only men involved, such as in the case when the Prophet ﷺ heard that this woman is leading an entire expedition, and I ask you, who's in that expedition? Who's in that army? It's only men. Just today, you find that there are in the army of certain countries, there are women who are there, and even in the law enforcement, there are women. But long ago, that was not the situation. When you talked about law enforcement, it was only the men. When you talk about army, it was only the men. So Ibn Hajar explains that if there's ever a situation where there's only men involved, then in that situation, a woman should not serve as the leader. The woman should not serve as the leader. However, Ibn Hajar Asqalani, he goes on to explain, but that if there is a situation where you're serving a great deal of people, you're serving men, you're serving women, and is in a position of leadership, and the woman or the sister happens to be competent, she has the necessary skill set to do what she needs to do, then there is no harm in having a woman in the position of leadership. Such as really in the position, in the leadership of a masjid, the masjid board, or the school board, if there's an Islamic school. If there is a woman, and believe it or not, we have many sisters in our community who are, mashallah, very, very competent. Very competent, mashallah. If they are in that position, if they have the necessary skill set, there is no harm in them serving in the position of leadership. Now, when we talk about the subject of voting, and especially this hadith that comes up, there are times in our deen that where we can apply the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but then this is why we always refer to our ulama. This is why we always refer to our scholars, because the scholars, when they study ulum al-shar'iyya and they study usul al-fiqh, they have a very broad perspective of what is going on, and they have a better angle of how to approach a certain matter. When you look at this certain matter, we have to really go back into history to understand why this election that is coming up, it is so important. When we as Muslims today, living in America, we are clearly a minority in this country. We are a minority in this country. So when we study Islamic history, we need to study the Muslims when they were considered as a minority. Especially the time when the Muslims, they went to Habsha. When they migrated to Habsha and they were living in Habsha under the protection of a Christian king. Once again, when I say Christian king, the reason I say Christian king is because he is not a Muslim. We know that. Later on, he did become a Muslim, and later on, when he passed away, the Prophet ﷺ, he did perform Salatul Janaza al-Ghaib upon him. But there was a time in the very beginning where the Prophet ﷺ, he realized that this was a man of morals. This was a man who took care of his people. And the Prophet ﷺ realized that in order for his people to be protected, they should go to that certain land and they should seek refuge there. And without any kind of hesitation, although the Quraysh made many attempts to come and persuade him to give these people back to the Quraysh, he never budged and he never gave in. And he admired the teachings of the Quran and the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But there was a time when the Muslims that they were there, and remember, the Muslims migrated one time, they heard some rumors that things were going well in Mecca, they came back. But that's why it's called a rumor, because they found out that it was false. The news that they had received, it was false. So then they migrated again to Abyssinia for a second time, and this time they had a much larger group. They had a much larger group, approximately 80 people. It says that Salama radiallahu anha, she says that while we were there, we found out that the king of Abyssinia, the Najashi, he is being attacked by someone else. He is being attacked by someone else. And this other person, he wishes to overthrow the Najashi and to overthrow his entire kingdom. And this person attempts to become the ruler and leader. And at that time, since the Muslims could not participate in the military, what the Muslims did was that they made a sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just once, but consistently they made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help and for protection. And asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give victory to a kafir. Both of them were kafir. But the Muslims were making dua that this person who cares about us, he cares about our rights, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give victory to him over that person, the other person who happens to be an oppressor. That person happens to be a person that if he came into the position of leadership, he would cause a lot of problem for Muslims. And at that time it says that Ibn Zubayr, what he would do is that he was a great swimmer, so he would go and he would swim to go, and he would go and fetch some news time after time to find out exactly what is going on in the battlefield. And Salama, she says that the day we found out that the Najashi was successful and the Najashi had prospered, this was the second happiest day after the day of Badr. This was the second happiest day after the day of Badr. Now, why is she so happy? Is it because that now they were able to implement Islamic law? Or Sharia, they can implement Sharia in that country, that this country becomes a Muslim country? No. She was happy and the Muslims were happy because now they can fulfill the rights of their religion, and they can practice their religion without any type of discrimination. This is why she was happy. So we have to take that into consideration, that looking at our situation, how are we going to approach this vote? How are we going to approach this matter? Once again, I'm not advocating for anyone, and I'm not saying that we should go and vote for a certain person and leave another person. I'll leave that to you. But this subject matter keeps on coming up over and over again, that why do we need to vote? Believe it or not, here in Murphy, just to give you an idea how much we're left out, how much harm is caused in the society when you don't vote. When you don't go and you're part of your community. Here in Murphy, there was a time where in this area, all the gas stations were dry. All the gas stations were dry. Right now, if you go to all these gas stations, they're all wet. Okay, they're all wet. Now, it makes you wonder that there was a time when they were dry and now they're wet. What happened? Well, these people, they went and they tried to push forward what they wanted. All these store owners, they wanted their places to become wet so that they can make more money. Now, you and I, as having Muslim children in our society, I can guarantee you that we all would want these places to be dry, right? The places where there is no alcohol served, or the alcohol, the more it stays away from our children in our society, the better it is, right? But when you go back to the numbers, just to the numbers, and you look at the numbers of the people who voted in favor of the gas stations to be dry versus the ones who voted for the gas stations to be wet, the ones who were hoping that these places would become wet, they won that vote by 400 votes. That's it. 400 votes. You know what that means? A Salatul Jum'ah here, how many people do we get here for Salatul Jum'ah? We get much more than that. That's all that was needed to overturn that rule, or that not a bill, but that permission, I would say. 400 more people, if 400 people came forward and they voted, how many people do we have in our Muslim community? Clearly over 400. How many people are registered voters? We don't even have that much, probably. But if we were to come forward and we were to vote it, it's very possible that all these places would have been dry right now. The other day I was standing with Brother Imran, and he was telling me that he went to all the people in his certain area, and he was asking how many people are registered voters, how many people are registered voters. He found out that many people are just not registered voters. But one is that you're not a registered voter, but one is that you simply don't care about what's going on. This state of obliviousness is what is driving us, it's what's causing us harm. It's really what is causing us harm. There was, along with some of the other brothers in the area where Brother Imran lives, they get together time after time and they bring some of these candidates. And one woman who came, who is going to be serving in a certain position, when she came, she said to Brother Imran, and she said to all the Muslims sitting there in that household, she says that you don't realize, she says that you don't know that the Muslim community right now is a sleeping giant. What did she say? She said the Muslim community is a sleeping giant. If they were to wake up and start voting, I guarantee you all these people who run for positions, they will be here at the masjid asking you for your vote. Now imagine if these people came here to the masjid asking us for our vote. Don't you think now that we are in the position of somewhat authority? Don't you think that now the ball is on our side now? The ball is in our court? Don't you think that the advantage is in our side? Absolutely. At that time, whatever you want, you can ask. Because now they need your vote. Right now the situation is that we sit here and we say that how can I vote when they're gonna follow a taghut and they're gonna do this and they have policies which are un-Islamic. But believe it or not, we're living in a society, we're part of the society here in this country, that we're already part of all this that is going on. So for us to say that, you know what, I don't want to go and vote because I'll be supporting haram. Or I'll be supporting someone who supports harming Muslims. If I go and I do this, then the wrath will come upon me. But we don't realize we're already part of that society. Don't you know where our tax money goes? We all know where our tax money goes. But then that's why we have these lectures and that's why we have these talks, is to create that awareness within us. That we have the ability to make a difference in our society. I'm going to say this and I'll finish inshallah. If you remember, there was a tribunal. If you remember several months ago here in Irving, there was a tribunal where you had some key individuals from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, especially from the Irving area, who played. This was an Islamic tribunals kind of system, and there's nothing really wrong with it because there are so many other people of other faiths. They have these kind of tribunal systems, but of course, they want to keep their target on the Muslims at all times. So this matter came into so many Muslims went to the Irving City Hall, and this matter was discussed, and even the mayor of Irving, she received like so many applauses from so many Islamophobes for turning down this matter, and not turning down this matter. I mean shutting down this matter, and she was really against this Islamic tribunal, and she was saying that this is basically institutionalizing Sharia law in our system. That's what she was saying, and so what happened was that the brothers who went there. They were, I happened to talk to one of them, and they were saying this, that when we went, all the people who were sitting over there, these are not people who are in support of us. These are not people who are in support of us. But now, is the blame to be on them, or is the blame to be on us? Are we blameworthy, or are they blameworthy? It's us who are actually blameworthy because we never went out. If we have gone out and we would have voted, those people who are sitting there on that panel, they would have probably not been sitting there right now. But it's because of our lackness and our obliviousness that's why those kind of people are sitting there and they're making these kind of rulings. Then not only that, but I found out and I came to know that in Irving, there was a person who could have been voted. There was a Jewish man who would have been voted. And he was not a man who was really in favor of the Muslims. And guess what? He lost the voting to his opponent. He lost that election process because of one vote. Because of one vote. Because they were saying that we still need some people to come and vote, and it's a very tight race. One brother from the Muslim community went. And when he showed up to that place, he found out that his ID had expired. So yet they still let him cast his vote on the condition that he has to bring back a valid ID to show it later on. He went through that entire process. But that one Muslim guy who voted was the cause of this Jewish man losing that election. One vote. And when that guy found out, he said, they see everything. They see all the names who are coming through and the people who are voting. When this Jewish man saw that the last name happens to be a Muslim guy, he says, I want to meet with that Muslim guy. He goes, I want to meet with that Muslim guy. Believe it or not, we have the numbers. Especially in Dallas, we have the numbers. But it's us who are not going and making a difference in the society. At that time, we should not blame these people for what they're doing because they have an agenda. Some of them are in favor of the Muslim community and some of them are not in favor of the Muslim community. The ones who are not in favor of the Muslim community, they're trying to make their way up to that position of leadership. They're trying to sit in that chair. But then it becomes our responsibility and it becomes our job to make sure that they don't get that chair. So that's why even if you go to voting, even if you go to vote, and even if you cast an empty ballot, even do that. If you feel like that I don't want to vote for any of these people because I don't like any of these people, khair, la bas, no problem. There is no problem at all. At least just cast your ballot, because when they see the Muslim numbers going high, that is when they know that now the Muslims are an entity. The Muslims are an entity. You remember, I said I was going to finish on this, but I did not. So I'm going to finish on this, inshallah, and please forgive me if I offend you. You remember the time when a certain presidential candidate went to Detroit. He first went to Mexico, then he went to Detroit. Why did he go to Mexico? To appeal to the Hispanic community members. Why did he go to the Detroit community? To appeal to the African American society. Because he wants their vote. It makes you wonder, and when you see this, you should have asked this question to yourself. Aren't we, the Muslim community, a minority just like the Hispanic or the Latina community and the African American community? Aren't we a minority? The answer is yes, we are. Why did he not want to go there? Why did he not want to come to us and ask us for our vote? Because we have been a sleeping giant. And as long as we're sleeping, then people will do what they want to do. So that's why, things are not over. We still can make a great difference in this community. And remember, when we say election, it's not just about the presidents. It starts locally. Find out who are the people who are serving in your area. Find out those people who have come and visited our masjid. Those who have sympathy for the Muslims. Those who like the Muslims. Those who support the Muslims. Find out who those people are. And go and vote for those people in your area. Because right now, it starts from your own area. It starts from your city. It starts from Plano. It starts from Murphy. It starts from Wiley. That's where it starts from. And then we build our way up to where we start getting in touch with our state representatives. And because they are the ones who are running for Congress. Today there was a person over here who's running for Congress. He's running for Congress. These people are the ones who go and they represent us in the state of representatives, in the House of Representatives. And if we are the ones who are deciding that who will be in that chair, then we have a very good shot in putting someone in that position who will look after our needs. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we take this seriously. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may His help be with us at all times. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help our Muslim community, protect our Muslim community, all Muslim communities around the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put those people in the position of power who have sympathy for Muslims, who will care for Muslims, who will look after the affairs of the Muslims, who will not oppress anyone, Muslim, non-Muslim. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that in these times, may Allah ta'ala protect all of our masajid, all of our Islamic schools, and any other Islamic institution that may exist. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanallah bihamdik. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.